Shepherding Chaos, the Retail 247 podcast. Embracing change in the world of retail tech.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Shepherding Chaos, a gentle meander through all things retail and technology. I'm Martin Schofield, CEO of Retail 247, and today I'm joined by Matt Bradley from the Retail Technology Show and Lucy, who works for Retail 247 as our marketing executive. Welcome both. Matt, I guess the first question is, how is it for you?
How was the show was fantastic. It's interesting because when you walk around the aisles over those sort of 2 days, you say to people are saying to you, "I bet you can't wait for a nice holiday now, and I bet you can't wait to go away. What have you got planned?" And I mean, I haven't been away. I mean, in fairness, probably the first month after the show is equally as busy.
For the next show,
exactly. And so it's important to enjoy that moment, but almost immediately. I mean, thankfully we had a bank holiday the Monday after it. But from Tuesday onwards, we pushed last year behind us. And
is it truly a 12-month exercise getting this off the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. With the creative and building out the conference program and the expansion of the show itself, it certainly is a 12-month. But I mean, look, we're going to take some holiday in August and July, maybe.
Without thinking about it, I suppose now I'm thinking about it. There's a lot to do, obviously. Yeah. But when do you start that thought process? I
think also the other thing is you have to, once you're in front of people's minds, you need to maintain that and keep with that momentum. Yeah. And there's lots of other vehicles and ways of people interacting with retailers. We need to make sure that we're the one that people sort of continually come back to. So we often. That's why immediately after the show we are straight on to the following year. So.
Well, and in the show,
We'll
come back to that in a second. But that works well. And the show was bigger this year, I'm right in saying? And bigger again next year. So
bigger again next year. So we are going to be going upstairs. So I mean, we've got all of Olympia now. Yeah. So there really is no more space. We'll be moving a few things that were downstairs upstairs. That will allow a bit more space for stands and things downstairs. But we'll be in the ground hall, we'll be in the National Hall and the gallery of the National as well.
Excellent. Yeah. No, it's reestablished itself very quickly, isn't it? I think that sort of push, but whether it's right or wrong, but my perception was, you were the first post-COVID get out there again type exercise, and that worked well.
There was a lot of that was luck as well. Yeah. You always have to have a bit of luck on your side, and certainly when we originally stopped, there was question marks whether events would ever come back, let alone whether a retail show would come back.
So obviously COVID was a big downer for us all. I'm sure your industry in particular, but we've seen things come back stronger and stronger, really.
Yeah, it seems crazy that, 2 years ago, thinking there weren't going to be events and you were doing that virtual online one with a little character walking through these sort of virtual, like a bit like Sims.
I've tried that for 20 years and it's never going to work.
It was obviously it was a really challenging time, but it was quite an interesting time when you reflect on it. Obviously at the time it didn't feel like that, but people had to really use their imaginations in how they were going to reach a market. And I think it's the same with anything. For us, certainly it felt like it was an opportunity to start again. Mm-hmm. It was an opportunity there felt like there was good feeling around exhibitions again. I think people had got to a point where they were thinking,
what the hell?
What the hell? They're a lot of work.
Yeah.
Do we really need to be walking around a show? What are we actually getting out of it? And it's like most things in life, until you take it away, realize the value of it. So
we did a drinks event in the September that was sort of the almost out of lockdown, and that was really successful. It was people, I'm out now.
I'm out. I mean, someone I spoke to ages ago that said, once they opened the pubs again, no one was doing Zoom quizzes anymore. It just stopped, and people and
we still persevere with the family one once about it.
Do you? Oh well, that's good on you.
Persevere is the right word.
Yes, exactly. Have you won any yet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, your record's good. No wonder you want to keep doing it then. So it's interesting because. We've although the first year was that opportunity to bring everyone back together, and going into it, I always had that sort of feeling, people are saying they need this, this is built on a response from the industry saying we miss it. And so there was always that feeling of it should go okay, but I was still really nervous. And it was like, oh God, are people going to come back to events? So when we had that first year, I remember coming off site and sort of everyone being sort of, over the moon. And I was just thinking, okay, but if they're coming because it was our first one back, why are they going to come the following year? And already my mind was thinking that immediately, like, okay, well, how are we going to entice people? Because we've got past that that feeling of togetherness and let's get everyone back together. And the world has, relatively gone back to normal. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do in year two? So it was really important for me from the minute we started our marketing campaign is to not build it around that retail's big
feel good.
reunion or let's bring people back together. It's about, okay, let's just move past that now. Let's say we're back together now. How do we progress in the industry that we're working in? So that was where a lot of our marketing went from this year. And I have to say, and I've run shows for 20 odd years now, it was the first one that I went on site to and I actually felt confident.
Excellent.
It was the first one I actually slept okay the night before. I was up very early, but I was still thinking, I don't think we're going to have a problem here.
Slight sidestep, but Olympia, that's a massive tick for me.
Yeah?
Just is,
Okay.
Well, it just feels central as opposed to other venues
Yes.
that might not feel as central.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I think it's just got such great character as well. I think when you walk in there, I love how it's still got the natural light from the glass ceilings.
People, I think, want to spend a whole day there, whereas if you go somewhere that's got no windows,
Exactly. And you know, it's got its problems when you're working with it from an exhibition organiser's point of view, you know, with huge great pillars and the amount of building work that's going on there. So getting people in and out isn't easy, and it's a bit of an eyesore at the moment from the outside. But that said, inside it still looks beautiful. It's still got that character. And I think, you know, from speaking to the venue itself, the amount of investment going into the area, amount of investment going into the actual venue itself, in the next couple of years, it's going to look quite incredible. And there's going to be so much more to do there. There'll be hotels on site, there'll be retail units on site, there's going to be a theatre on site, concert venue on site. So I might feel like I'm working for Olympia now.
Will we see a big change in 12 months' time, or is it a multi-year project?
It's 2025 is what I've been told should be finished and ready to go. I mean, the changes that we're seeing are quite subtle, but I think the sort of major changes, I think probably you will see a lot more come 2024. I mean, I know on the hotels the structure's up, so that could be in place, but I think by 2025 is what I've been told. It will be finished.
So more building next year, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's fine. It's okay. It's character.
It's something like that.
The one thing at these types of shows I hear, and this isn't a criticism, and it's probably not even factually correct, and I'm sure you'll tell me it's not, but often you go around and people are saying, well, there's not many retailers here, or they're all suppliers talking to other suppliers. How do you combat that sort of message?
It's tricky. I mean, you have to be very truthful with your stats, and that's what we're sort of working through at the moment. You know, I think the one way that we can always judge it on an immediate scale is the rebook.
Yeah.
So people vote immediately, you know, by saying actually this hasn't shown us any ROI, or we haven't met anyone that we wanted to meet, or something. Anything.
That's another. I mean, actually, demonstrable. Sorry to interrupt. The demonstrable ROI. It's difficult. It's a leap of faith exercise, really, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And you know, I've worked on consumer shows where people are buying candles and stuff, and there is an immediate ROI there. If you say, "Well, I sold 2 candles and that doesn't pay for my stand," or "I sold 200 candles and that did pay for my stand," so that, you know, there's a much easier ROI to measure when you're doing sort of consumer shows and things like that. But when you're doing shows of the size of ours, on the sort of deals and the agreements that we're doing, it
just takes one, really.
Of course it does. It just takes one, and actually, it might be even just one introduction, or it might be that final meeting, or it might be that opportunity to demo, or it might be that opportunity to introduce, you know, from a heads of department to introduce you to their CEO or something like that. So all of those things show some sort of elements of ROI. But and you know, I'm very aware that the show isn't, you know, there was 9,963 people at the show. I know that there wasn't 9,963 retailers.
Yeah. Do you have a number?
I'm working on the number. That's part of the wash-up meeting that we've got tomorrow, Thursday. So
and you know, equally, depending on what that number is, you know, even supplier contacts aren't necessarily a bad thing, because, you know, suppliers move, people move between the suppliers, people recommend into the retailers.
It's true.
All part of that rich tapestry of the retail.
It is, and there is a lot of people looking to sort of work throughout the channel, you know, and they're looking for channel partners and things like that, and distributors. So there is, and it is, and I totally get, you know, what you're saying. We do get a lot of feedback saying, well, you should charge anyone who's not a retailer to come in. But there are elements, there are exhibitors in that show that actually, yes, would like to meet end users, but also are quite keen to sort of bolster that channel work that they do as well. So you don't want to sort of penalise that.
That is a tricky one as well, because I mean, we used to go to, well, we probably still will again, but NRF, you know, is now bloody expensive.
Really
for a supplier.
expensive.
I mean, obviously to exhibit, but just to attend is big numbers when you take several people, and that makes you think twice. And will, you know, change the ambience of the whole event.
Totally. And so the genuine ROI is end users. You know, that's what mainly most people are there to see, and they see retailers. And, you know, we walked away from the show with 90% of that plan already sold for the following year. So that gives you a sort of an idea that actually the people there were right. But yeah, would I like 100% retailers? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah. high 70s. We'll do.
High 70. That'd be fantastic.
So yes, sold up. So that leads us on to Lucy. We have Bullet in the Bullet, and we will be having a stand next year as Retail 247, and we've thought about it for a while, and taken the plunge this time round. So I guess we'll be newbies next year, and that's probably quite a journey for us. I mean, Lucy, you're in charge. Make it so.
Scarily.
Well, I remember we spoke. Oh God. Good, 8 months ago now?
Probably, yeah.
Probably around that. And, you said, oh, we're sort of thinking,
Yeah,
we might
Well,
look
so,
at...
I mean, we're doing quite well as a company. We're growing. We've got some really nice customers, but it's still a big expense and a big
course it
considered
is.
expense.
Yeah, it is. And we value that. And that's
Even at
why...
your bargain rates, Matt, as well.
Even well, we totally understand that the investment people have to make into doing these exhibitions, and I'd like to think it's shown from our side that it's not something that we're just taking and running with. We try and put a lot of that money back into the show, whether that's in the look and the feel, whether that's in the events that we do around it, whether that's in the big party at the end of day one, or even if it's in the recruitment with the speakers, which as you can imagine, the cost of the likes of Stephen Bartlett, Mary Porters, and Jake Humphrey,
They don't do it for free.
there's not a drop in the ocean. So it's and I don't think and that's I think how it should be. I think if you guys are investing in us, we need to be investing in you. And I think we've always tried to make sure that we do that to the best that we can, and try and deliver a show that is valuable but also very worthwhile.
Yeah, Lucy. So what we're 11 and a half months before we go. What's worrying you most?
I haven't really thought about it since getting back from holiday, to be honest.
How's
But
the
I think obviously we've gone for I can't remember the terms, but we're not going for the frame.
You're going space only.
Yes.
And that's
yeah,
great.
and I think that was a bit of a leap as well. But I think we wanted to, if we're going to do it, we want to sort of do it really, really well.
You've signed the contract now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can talk to you freely. Because, it is a leap. It is a leap. And most people who do their first show normally would take a shell scheme or something quite small and it's at 5 or 10 meters or something like that, and then work their way up.
Yeah.
And you've gone quite big quite
Well,
quickly. I like that. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect generally about this, but I've been on the other side of the fence most of my career, and there's nothing quite. You don't want to be on the peripheral. You don't want to be one of the little small stands.
No.
That obviously works for many people, and apologies if I've offended anybody. But no, my view was, if we're going to do it, do it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's great. And thankfully, we've got a very good team that I'm sure will support you. And the show will only continue to grow by bringing new blood in.
Yeah.
We need those new solutions. We need those new companies. We need those new conversations. So it's very, very exciting for us whenever we get anyone new and we build that. And that's why expanding the show is very important for us as well, because it allows new people to come in. We sold out 6-7 weeks before the show opened this year. So
People signed on as late as that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
What people that are what's it called?
Exhibitors.
Yeah.
Exhibitionists.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
No, they don't sign on. They just turn up.
They signed on within 6 weeks. Or,
Sometimes, yeah.
Wow.
What I'm hearing is it was a last minute bargain opportunity.
Last minute, no, never do deals. But they're normally the sort of smaller stands, and also probably normally in the locations that, as you said, you probably wouldn't want to be in. No one's taking the front stand right in front of the entrance 6 weeks to go. So it's really about getting the location, and also it's about the work that you do. Leading up to it, probably 11 and a half months out, you don't need to be doing too much PR, but sort of that drip feeding it, and I know we've spoken about some ideas which I think are great. That's really that's as we turn into the new year from January onwards, you'll really start seeing that heavy sort of push from our side, as well as I'm sure from a lot of the exhibitor side as well.
Cool. One thing springs to mind, and we were talking to some of the retailers, and we were talking to LK Bennett in our last podcast about eco credentials and then the importance and growing awareness of that world. How does that affect your industry? So, what I'm thinking about is, these stands are put together. I'm sure a lot are thrown away, a lot into storage with the hope of using it in 12 months' time, but never are. There's carpet ripped up and disposed of. Yeah. Is that a concern?
Certainly. Absolutely. And we're looking very closely on how we sort of can be more sustainable. I think it's a concern in every industry that we work in, but certainly ours has got quite a big spotlight on it, given that there is quite a bit of wastage. We do try and recycle as much as we possibly can. you know, I don't know if you even noticed, but we've not got rid of our show guides now as well, and it all runs through
Oh, yeah,
the lovely app. So
yeah.
that's just
That makes
sort of
sense.
small changes that you can make. But yeah, absolutely. There's always more I think that we can all be doing in every sort of area of our lives and our work and our careers. So we're certainly looking into how we can do that. And there's a lot of companies that have come around into the exhibition ecosystem that can help us become more sustainable. And certainly I'll be having meetings with them over the next few months to ensure that we're doing all we can.
Yeah, and I think that's something we need to bear in mind. I mean, big and great stands, all good, but they need to be reusable or something. We need to make sure that we're not just buying and throwing away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true, and I can only control the bits that I can control. But certainly we've spoken with a company already who wants to look at doing some sort of green room style lounge for people, which is sort of based around sustainability and things like that, and sort of highlighting the areas around that. And I'm a big fan and a huge ambassador of trying to sort of maintain and see how we can do that.
Cool. So just back to our journey. Any advice for us first timers?
Well, I think it's great that you're going to be there. I think it's really important that you're educating people early on to who you are, what you can do, and it's and I think the most important thing is booking in as many meetings pre-show as possible. And we'll go, and truthfully, we can help you with that as well. And I know that the team are sort of very much on speaking to all the exhibitors to say, have you explored this opportunity? Have you looked at these PR chances you've got? So there's so much that you can be doing. It's always very clear to me when I walk around during build up and I'll chat to people that I know, and there'll be people that I'll say, what have you been doing leading up to the show? And they'll say, well, I've been emailing, for the last 6 weeks. I've got 19 meetings booked in for day one. I've got 23 meetings booked in for day two. We've got these drinks on the evening of day one. You think,
Okay.
this is going to go pretty well for you, I think,
Yeah.
And then the next person to go, I don't know, I think we sent an email at February or time. I don't know, maybe we'll see what happens. And you think, okay, well,
Bear this in mind.
Don't worry.
and you think, oh, well, you don't want to say too much at that point, but straight away that that's probably not going to be
Yeah, not necessarily a
working as
repeat
well.
buyer.
Exactly. So it really is about, it's not just about the 2 days, it's really about the work you do pre. And then also it's the follow up as well. So many times I've been into meetings afterwards where people have said, we created an inbox, but we never actually sort of followed it up as well as we probably could have. And it's that connection between sales and marketing. And actually it works a lot better in companies where there's less people. Where actually those departments are crossing over much more regularly, where you're saying, have you followed this? Have you done this? And you need to be in front of these people, or actually, Martin, this is one for you.
Yeah.
It's the sort of, it's when the sales team aren't pushing the marketing team, or the marketing team aren't communicating with the sales team. That's where it sort of all falls down.
Good advice.
So, what else was I going to ask? We've talked about, what it looks like next year, expansion again. Taking the whole venue next year.
The only part we're not taking at the moment is the upstairs of the grand hall, which was that main hall that you come into.
Yeah.
But watch this space.
So where does it go? Where does it go in 2, 3, 4 years' time?
Good question. Well, there are other halls within Olympia,
Right.
that are currently under construction due to the work that's going on there, and actually it's sort of mainly where you come in for build up and things like that, but they will be reopening again over the next couple of years, so it does allow us that space. I think for me it's more also about building on the brand of Retail Technology Show and not just being about
The show
a
itself.
show itself.
Yeah.
When we closed those doors on the 27th of April this year, 26th, 27th, wasn't it? I'm already thinking about next year's dates. The exhibitors in there still wanted to meet retailers. It's not like their work just stops.
Yeah.
They were waiting for us to come back again 12 months later. And we've got a good relationship with retailers. We've got a fantastic database and we've got a good reputation. And how do we then leverage that throughout the year, whether that's through roundtables, whether that's through parties, whether that's through product launches, whether that's through breakfast briefings, webinars. I think there's a lot that we could be doing that then doesn't necessarily
That makes a lot of
mean,
sense.
and actually for my own nerves, I don't particularly want to put all of
the
our
burden
eggs
across,
in
yeah.
one basket
Yeah,
on 2 days in April. So it'd be much better for us, I think, and much more sustainable to have things throughout the year. And I think also we want to keep our brand in people's minds throughout the year, and that again gives us another opportunity.
Yeah, the show
to do
being
that.
the sort of pinnacle of the year's exercise.
Yeah,
rather
I mean,
than the one-off.
NRF have got it quite good in the fact that they call their show the Big Show, and what
Yeah.
they tend to do is they do lots of things throughout the year.
About the really big show, you could.
You could do that, yeah. I see how they think about that.
Well,
Slightly smaller than your show.
Yeah, well, that is the question. Can the show get too big?
Yeah, I believe so.
At what point's that?
It depends. I'm sure my investors would say no, but I think there is definitely a case that if you're not getting the ratio right between, like we spoke earlier about actual key retailers and volume of exhibitors, then you're going to start noticing that very, very quickly. So the show, there are shows out there that are significantly bigger than ours. You talk shows like the World Travel Market and Arabian Travel Market, things like that, which are absolute monsters of shows, huge shows that take up both sides of Excel and some more space. And they get the visitor numbers. So I think the show will only be too big if you're not increasing your visitor numbers. Yeah. So as long as you're increasing the visitor numbers and they're the right visitors, then you can keep growing the show. And we went from 6,500 this year to 9,500 visitors this year. So that allows us that opportunity to say, okay, well, we can keep growing that, and then we'll look at what we can do for our visitor numbers next year.
What do you think drove that mainly? Was that your relentless publicity? I mean, it's a good thing, or was that people just continuing to come back into the world?
I think if I don't know the answer. I think, and that's a problem sometimes because it costs you a lot of money. Because
what we're going to do for next year?
What we're going to, and what did work? Well, maybe it all worked. Oh God, that means we have to do it all again. Okay, so you never quite know what was that silver bullet, or even if there is that silver bullet. I think it's just a case of having to say, right,
the mood was right.
The mood was right. The industry was in the right place. And truthfully, when I launched this show back in 2011. That was, that worked really, really well. But the timing for that was incredible. There hadn't been a retail show since 2007. And in that gap, the iPhone had come along. And the whole of the retail world had completely changed. So when we plonked that show there in 2011, the timing was perfect. Now, we're not seeing necessarily fundamental, enormous changes like we saw. I mean, the iPhone changed everything. We are seeing, things like AI and things like that are increasingly, and ChatGPT, which I'm hearing so much about as well. And we are seeing those sort of, those developments and things like that. But it's not life changing like the iPhone was. So we need to keep doing the smaller things that we're doing. We need to keep making sure we're relevant. I think the speaker lineup really helps.
It was great, yeah. I went to see Mary Portas, and
she's fantastic.
She was brilliant. And then I was hoping to see Stephen Bartlett, and that was just mental. It was full. I watched it from the top.
Yeah, that's the danger, isn't it? Because you're relatively constrained with space for that.
Yeah.
Which is a small portion of the people in the building, I imagine.
Yeah, you've got to remember. You've got to remember what we are. We're an exhibition.
No.
And we don't want to be a conference because you don't want people locked away in a conference theatre for 2 days, because the way that our business model runs,
stream them to those.
There is that option. There is that option. You make that decision pre-show. I always worry that if it wasn't busy enough, we're live streaming something to no one that wants to go see it.
Only if you're in the geographical area.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can
on the app in the area.
You can make a guess of which ones are going to be busy and which ones are not. But we always need to make sure that as per our business model, which is it's funded by the exhibitors, is to make sure that they come first, that they get to see the people they want. And if you lock people away in conference programs for 2 days and they're not walking the aisles and they're not coming to those meetings, then you haven't got a successful business model. So you're right though. It's finding that balance that's a conference program that's strong enough to get people registering, get people attending, but also there's gaps and there's breaks enough. And we're lucky because it's a huge industry, so there's a lot to cover, but not everything's relevant to everyone at all times. So people do spend their time walking around, the show.
Yeah. Speaking of the show, I mean, there's been I've been to many shows over the years, obviously, and there's been dalliances with sharing shows with other related sectors. The technology show always used to be with the Shop Fit show.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had a design to it.
So is that something that's gone away, or will that
go
back? Or
no, I think there's always
on that sort of thing.
I think there's always you can always have extensions, and you can always partner with things that you might feel. But I think for me, they've always got to have a relevance and not just be about increasing the profit of the business. And I think what we've looked at. And we've looked at design, and I think that it's certainly on our radar because there's a
natural overlap.
There is a natural overlap, yeah, exactly. And so that isn't something that's completely gone away, and it's not something that. And I still have really good relationships with a lot of the exhibitors, but also a lot of the associations as well that I could reach out to. But I think at this moment, I still feel that there's a lot more we can be doing within tech. I think there's a lot more we can be doing with software. I think there's a lot more we can do with e-commerce. I think there's a lot more we can be doing with even some of the bigger players that we haven't even spoken about yet. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done within that. And then I think we could look at sort of the expansions.
I can't make up my mind whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I suppose there is a natural overlap of technology in use in a retail environment, but as you say, it's also good to have a bit of focus, doesn't it?
Yeah, and someone once told me, don't try and be all things to all men.
Yeah.
And I don't think we necessarily are by adding design to that, but we've also got to be cautious not to dilute the audience
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah,
That, it's great to say, well, we've got 30,000 people in here, but actually only 8,000 of them are relevant to you.
Or the money you spent on your stand
Exactly.
attacking a certain market. Yeah.
Exactly.
And while I'm reminiscing, the only other thing I remember was, back in the retail solutions days in Birmingham, obviously there was a big, because people had travelled, there was the evening event and the
Yes.
black tie event.
Yeah.
And has that gone away? Or is that something you think
Well,
about doing in the future?
I think that because didn't they run over 3 days as well?
Oh, good question. Not sure. 2 or 3,
It's
certainly.
slightly
There
harder
was
to
a
do
couple
the
with
2
the
days.
awards, wasn't it? And there was the black tie doing the
Yeah. Well, and they still run the Retail Week Awards, don't they? But they run it on a
This
separate
is
day.
Retail Solutions Awards, I think. Yeah.
Wasn't it run by the company that run Retail Week?
Oh,
Though?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
So
I remember winning the surfboard challenge one year, but that's about it.
Did you?
Challenge,
It's-
expand.
There's a bucket.
You just wanted to get
bucket
this in
on the
here, didn't
surfboard,
you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You won it.
Of course.
Wow. Okay. Right, there you go. You
Congratulations.
live and learn, don't you?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the what we've done this year, or what we did last year, sorry, was really put a focus on everything else that's going on around the show, and it's about not just being there for the actual event itself. It's about being there for
Yeah.
the parties, the lunches, and everything like that. And actually, we had a sort of what's on guide on our website, which was a bit like. I wanted to try and look at something like the Edinburgh Fringe
Yeah.
or something like that.
A good
Where you're saying,
idea, yeah.
actually, we've got the actual main theatre here, but there are sort of loads of little satellite events going on throughout London over those 2 days. So that was sort of what we did. And actually, when you look at it, there were so many events going on, including...
Yeah, no, we did a little
retail
drinks event. It was
Yeah.
with Vista, and it worked well. I mean,
You say little, but I couldn't get anywhere near the bar.
that was just pre instructions. That was much bigger for us as well. Last year was slightly quieter. This year was bigger. There's definitely a feel about more people being around.
Obviously, we do our party on the show floor for 2 hours.
And that works well too.
It does work really well, and people seem to really like that. And then it gives the people enough time to have a few drinks there, and then sort of split off into their own parties. I'm conflicted in what I'd ideally like to do. Part of me really wants to run something on behalf of our retail technology show, but I also know that a lot of our key clients and people like you guys and a lot of the other exhibitors run their own personal things where they invite their VIP guests and stuff like that, and really, they know they've got them in London for 2 days, so they want to sort of juice them as much as possible, personally, without having to share a hall with lots of other vendors.
And I guess that's the same NRF type thing, isn't it? Particularly for the overseas, the UK contingent going there, it's as much about the partying afterwards as the exhibit itself, and that kind of works well. But it must be quite a fine balance between remembering what the commercial reality of having an exhibition is.
Yeah, well, and you're right, but there is. I mean, it's a very different hall on the second day morning.
Yeah.
It's a lot quieter. There's a lot of there's not as many high fives going around. Yes, it's certainly not. You're sort of easing people in. The people are sort of saying, I hope it gets busy about lunchtime. I could do with a few hours where just sort of reset myself a bit. But it isn't. You're right. It isn't about. We can't forget why we're there, and we try not to forget why we're there.
Yeah, no, and do it while you're up. Yeah.
But certainly. Part of that brand extension would be looking to how we can incorporate awards potentially at one point. We've started it this year with which we work with Lynn Davis from Retail Insider, and we built out our top 30 retail disruptors, and we announced the top 10 at the show, and we had a walk of fame with them. And it's we're starting on a slow step and just seeing how we can build out that.
Yeah.
Quite cautious of trying to do too much.
No,
too
quite.
quickly.
Obviously, you're onto a winning formula. You've got to morph it slowly rather than radically change
I think so, and I think because we're still progressing at quite a good rate, and it's a case of keep progressing at that rate, expand the team, so we've got more resources, and then how do we then look at other areas within the business that we can start influencing in a real way.
Excellent. Lucy, back to your journey of creating a stand.
Yeah, so we've got no idea yet what it's going to look like.
I thought you had a detailed strategy.
Literally all we know is the square footage,
Right.
acreage, whatever it's measured in. And it's quite exciting knowing that we've gone for a stand that's independent. It's not, there might be a wall actually.
There's one wall.
Yeah, one wall so we're attached to someone else. But yeah, it's quite exciting knowing we can literally do whatever we want and see what it's going to look like. But yeah, it's the process completely unknown to both of us.
Actually, it's a very detailed question for a second. We do what we want. Are there other restrictions that you impose? Other height?
There are height restrictions.
be
Yeah,
height
4
there.
meters. is
Right.
the height restriction.
I'm looking around thinking, there are
Yeah.
various.
Yeah, and no hanging banners.
No, what? Hanging
No hanging
banners?
banners. However, you can put a banner around a lighting grid.
Okay. We'll have to look at the detail. No,
Yeah.
no, I think we're gonna keep our sort of audience posted with our progress.
Are you going to be giving away anything?
Oh, well, yes, yes.
Yes.
What's good?
Paracetamol.
What's good?
Paracetamol and data.
I mean, there's always
There was someone that had shots on their stand or
Was there?
something like that.
Really?
Or maybe I definitely saw people taking shots, and there was like an alcohol bucket on someone's.
oh, there's a lot. I mean, there is
bucket.
there is a
Oh,
lot of
quite a
alcohol.
bucket.
like yeah.
Because we do these things called, a lot of the stands do happy hours where they have a sort of an hour's party on their stand. They invite all their top people and anyone can wander on if they are.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where some people were sort of saying, well, we're going to do ours from sort of 4 till 5.
I've noticed getting earlier.
Getting earlier and
You've
earlier.
got your event.
We've got ours, and
Yeah.
then like one of the sales team will say to one people, "Oh, do you know what? Someone else is doing one at that time, and I think that'd be quite busy. You might want to go."
2
And
to 3.
I think the first one started at 11.
Oh my god.
No, I'm serious. So I saw people drinking margaritas at
We'll
11
be 10
o'clock,
to
and I
11
thought,
then.
yeah, 10 to 11.
It works well. I mean, there's the ice cream.
There's ice cream. There's drinks. I think
Popcorn, I think, is quite a good one.
anything that people can walk around with that's branded
Yeah.
is quite good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because you're sort of expanding your brand
Yeah.
throughout the show. So
Yeah.
I look
I've
forward
had-
to your suggestions, Lucy.
Yeah. No
I've had my
seeds in it.
suit jacket being offered to be
on, sorry.
sponsored. My suit jacket being offered to be sponsored.
Excellent. Yeah.
So could we get the back of your suit jacket sponsored? But I'm not for sale.
Or a brand of your choice.
Yes, which out of my face, yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Just to reiterate, it's been it's a great show this year. Looking forward to next year. Anything you'd like to see sort of change over the next 12 months? Anything you want to for us as exhibitors, the retailers, what would make an even better show for you next year?
Well, 10,000 more visitors would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yep.
Filling up Olympia. I think, I really enjoy being part of this industry, and I think we've got some fantastic support from you guys. We've worked with you on several projects, and and we're going to keep working with you on
Thank
those
you.
projects. But
Yeah,
I think they're
fingers crossed
fantastic
too.
and they're really good. We've got great support from other media partners as well, and we do really feel part of this industry and part of this community. And I think that was always what I wanted to be. I'd never wanted to come across as an exhibition organizer that was sort of infiltrating this business and saying, right, here we are, and this sort of fat cat's walking away with all the greed. And it was really about coming in, being part of it, understanding the needs of the industry and trying to put on a show that reflected and represented what those issues were. And, if we can keep doing that, we're very lucky with that retailers give us a lot of their time and give us a lot of their, information about the things that they're struggling with or the issues they're facing or how the conference program should be. So I'll obviously be looking to grow that as much as possible. But I have absolutely zero complaints at the moment. It's been a fantastic ride, even from day one to now. But it feels the last 2 years have been probably the most enjoyable of my working career, and hopefully that will continue. And now that we've got you exhibiting, why won't it? Why won't it?
Perfect. That sounds like a good point just to wrap it up. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Again, great show, and looking forward to next year.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thank you.